The silent power of exponential growth. At first, nothing seems to be happening. Numbers inch forward, barely noticeable, almost boring. Then suddenly, everything changes at once. Exponential growth hides in plain sight. It starts quietly, disguising itself as slow progress. Early steps feel manageable, even comforting. But this illusion is precisely what makes it dangerous. By the time we notice it, control has already slipped away. To understand why exponential growth matters today, we must rewind. Humans evolved in a linear world. We learned to expect steady cause and effect. One effort produces one result. More time means proportional change. Our intuition was never trained for acceleration. Exponential growth breaks that intuition. It does not add, it multiplies. Each step builds on the last, compounding quietly. Early stages look harmless. Later stages overwhelm everything around them. Ancient farmers experienced it with crops. One seed became many. But limits appeared quickly. Land, water, and seasons slowed expansion. Nature imposed breaks early. Modern systems remove those breaks. Technology scales instantly. Information spreads without friction. Digital processes replicate endlessly. Exponential behavior escaped physical limits. This shift reshaped how progress behaves. Population growth accelerated. Energy consumption exploded. Data multiplied beyond comprehension. What once took centuries now happens in years. Yet our thinking did not adapt. We kept planning linearly. Forecasts assumed steady growth. Warnings sounded exaggerated. Until suddenly, they weren't. The most unsettling part is timing. Exponential growth punishes delay. Acting early feels unnecessary. Acting late becomes impossible. The window for control closes silently. This is why exponential growth feels invisible. Nothing signals urgency at first. Graphs look flat. Trends appear stable. Comfort persists until the curve bends upward. And when it does, the rules change instantly. Resources strain. Systems overload. Solutions lag behind acceleration. The power of exponential growth is not speed alone. It is deception. It convinces us nothing is wrong until everything is. Understanding this pattern is no longer optional. It shapes economics, technology, biology, and risk. Ignoring it does not stop it. It only guarantees surprise. And the deeper story begins when we ask why humans keep underestimating it, even after watching it reshape the world repeatedly. The misunderstanding begins with how our brains measure change. We notice differences, not ratios. We feel steps, not multipliers. A number doubling feels similar to a number adding. Emotionally, both register as progress. Exponential growth exploits this weakness. Early increases feel trivial. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8. Each jump feels small, familiar, controllable. But something invisible is happening. The pace itself is accelerating. Growth feeds on its own past. Time compresses. Prediction windows shrink. History offers repeated warnings. Bacteria colonies explode overnight. Infection spreads silently before symptoms appear. Debt compounds while balances look manageable. By the time alarms sound, reversal costs multiply. Technology magnifies this effect. Networks grow faster than regulation. Algorithms learn faster than oversight. Platforms scale faster than culture adapts. Feedback loops reinforce themselves relentlessly. At first, exponential systems feel empowering. More users create more value. More data improves performance. More connections amplify reach. Momentum builds trust. Then saturation arrives. Growth collides with limits. Infrastructure strains. Errors propagate instantly. Small flaws scale catastrophically. This is where conflict emerges. Linear solutions face nonlinear problems. Incremental fixes cannot match accelerating forces. Delays compound into disaster. Good intentions arrive too late. The most dangerous phase is the middle. Growth is obvious, but still feels manageable. Warnings sound theoretical. Costs feel distant. Action feels optional. This false calm traps decision makers. Waiting seems rational. Intervening feels premature. Meanwhile, the curve steepens quietly. Exponential growth does not announce its tipping point. It passes it silently. Afterward, every response feels insufficient. Control becomes damage limitation. We repeat this cycle constantly. Health systems, climate systems, financial systems, digital ecosystems. Each time, the pattern feels new, but the mathematics never changes. Exponential growth rewards foresight. It punishes hesitation. It exposes the limits of intuition. The question is not whether exponential growth will appear. It always does. The question is whether we recognize it before the curve decides for us. This is where the tension peaks. Exponential growth stops being a concept and becomes a force that reshapes behavior. When curves steepen, time feels compressed. Decisions that once took years must happen in weeks. Mistakes propagate instantly. Recovery windows vanish. Systems designed for gradual change begin to fail. Human responses lag behind mathematics. We debate while numbers accelerate. We negotiate while costs multiply. We wait for clarity while clarity dissolves. By the time consensus forms, momentum has hardened. This gap creates cascading failures. Supply chains fracture under sudden demand. Hospitals overflow faster than capacity expands. Markets panic as feedback loops amplify fear. What starts small overwhelms coordination itself. Exponential growth also distorts responsibility. No single step feels catastrophic. Each choice seems reasonable alone, but together they compound into inevitability. Blame diffuses while damage concentrates. This is why exponential crises feel shocking. Nobody feels responsible for the turning point. The disaster appears sudden. In reality, it was incremental until it wasn't. The curve crossed invisibly into instability. Mathematically, this moment is predictable. Emotionally, it is almost impossible to feel. Our instincts warn us too late. Our tools arrive after acceleration peaks. Preparedness requires acting against intuition. The buildup exposes a hard truth. Linear thinking cannot manage nonlinear reality. Scaling problems requires scaling responses. Early sacrifice prevents later collapse. Delay multiplies consequences, not options. Yet acting early carries social cost. Warnings sound extreme. Precautions appear wasteful. Intervention feels disruptive. Success looks like overreaction. This paradox traps societies repeatedly. If action works, it seems unnecessary. If action fails, it seems incompetent. Exponential growth hides the evidence of prevention. Technology intensifies this dilemma. Automation speeds feedback. Networks amplify both success and failure. What once took generations now unfolds within lifetimes. The curve tightens around decision makers. At this stage, exponential growth reveals its true power. It does not just reshape numbers. It reshapes time, responsibility, and consequence. It compresses futures into the present. And once acceleration dominates, the only remaining question is not how to stop it, but how much damage remains unavoidable. The climax of exponential growth is not explosion. It is inevitability, a moment when outcomes stop responding to intention and begin following mathematics alone. At that point, control feels like illusion, options narrow, trade-offs harden. Every solution creates new acceleration elsewhere. The system moves faster than human judgment. But this ending was never sudden. It was built quietly, choice by choice, delay by delay, comfort by comfort. Exponential growth only reveals what was already decided. The lesson is not fear. It is humility. We are not broken thinkers. We are linear thinkers in a nonlinear world. And that mismatch carries cost. Exponential systems demand early imagination. They reward restraint before urgency appears. They ask for action when evidence feels incomplete. They invert our instincts. This is why foresight feels uncomfortable. It requires acting without emotional confirmation. It requires trusting math over feeling. It requires patience before pressure. When societies succeed, the story looks boring. Nothing dramatic happens. Disaster never arrives. Critics call it wasted effort. But that quiet outcome is a signal of understanding. Exponential growth does not care about intention. It responds to structure. Change the structure early and the curve bends gently. Ignore it and the curve decides for you. This applies everywhere. Technology, health, finance, environment. Any system that feeds on itself will eventually outrun intuition. Once you recognize the curve, you cannot unsee it. Flat lines become warnings. Small delays become dangerous. Early moments become precious. Exponential growth is not evil. It is powerful. Handled with foresight, it creates abundance. Handled casually, it creates collapse. The difference lies entirely in timing. So the next time growth looks harmless, ask yourself one question. So what do you think? Are we repeating the same mistake again? The